What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So since the PlayStation 5 release, there have been some issues that have come up with the system and also the DualSense controller. Things like stick drift have been discussed, but there was another issue with it that appears to have been improved by Sony very quietly in their latest release, and we're going to go over some of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a game that appears to have leaked out a bit early for the Switch through the ratings board, and it's a game that I really enjoyed. And we're also going to be talking about a new state of play to look forward to this week, and it is for a game that a lot of people have been asking for. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the SpawnWave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Final Fantasy Origin: The Stranger of Paradise. It's out later on this week, unless you get like there's like a digital deluxe version, or the digital version. Basically, you can get in a little early, like a few days, but we did get reviews going live through Metacritic, which we can see the score here, sitting currently at a 72. And I feel like this is lower than a lot of people were expecting. This is from Koei Tecmo and Team Ninja. Now, if we take a look at the split here, it's 21-21, 21 positive, 21 mixed, 1 negative. And people who really enjoyed the game seem to approach it, I think, from a different angle than people who were either mixed or very negative on the game. Basically not taking it very seriously. And once I saw some of the cutscenes that were going around on Twitter, where like one big enemy was basically starting up their monologue, and the main character is like, I don't want to hear it, just tell us where this is. At times you kind of feel that way, and I almost wonder if this game just isn't taking itself very seriously, so you shouldn't either. But there were also negatives around the combat itself, and it just not really gelling well at the end of the day. For example, NME gave it a 20, so yeah, pretty low there. Others, though, like RPG Fan giving it an 87 or GamerSky giving it an 83. So I am going to be picking this game up later on this week. I want to get it physically on the PlayStation 5. I'll check it out, but there is a demo now, so if you're just curious how it plays, you might as well download the demo and see what you think. Also, we have talked about Babylon's Fall, not necessarily the game itself, but just the release and how poor it was. I mean, it's like a 41, and no one seemed to even want to review it. Well, it does look like Square is at least reaching out and attempting to see if there's anything they can do to fix the game. We could see this over on Twitter from Babylon's Fall, saying, "Today we've launched a new survey on how we can bring a better game experience to Babylon's Fall. This survey focuses on graphics, so please take some time to answer if you can. Thank you for your support." That was one of the obvious things. Once you start it up, the visuals are really bad in this game. I mean, people are comparing it to a PlayStation 3 title, and sometimes we get a bit out there when we're like, wow, this thing looks like a PS2 game. Well, I mean, a lot of people forget what a PS2 game looked like. This legitimately, though, looks like a PlayStation 3 game. It's that bad. The art style, something about it is very weird. And there's menus on top of menus. There's battle passes. There's microtransactions. Then you finally get to the game, and the game itself isn't even put together well when it comes to the combat or like the buttons and the combos. It's a very strange release to see out of Platinum Games and Square. I think it's just a very disjointed development that they went through here, and they just kind of pushed it out. And now they're looking for people's feedback. So if you are one of like the 10 people playing Babylon's Fall, go let them know what you think about it. Oh, and we did talk about those Elden Ring sales. They're absolutely ridiculous. We're comparing it to Call of Duty at this point in the US. There are also a lot of people getting into the series for the first time. With all of these Souls games out there, Elden Ring certainly blew up here at launch. Well, just in case you didn't already feel bad enough dying 10 times to the same boss, take a look at this here. This is Elden Ring being speedrun in about 30 minutes. In fact, as articles were being written about this, other people were turning in times under 30 minutes. I mean, you can see that there's an entire like speed run of it at 33 minutes, 55 seconds. And it's just insanity to think about that. I mean, I spent 53 hours or so getting through it, and I died to many, many bosses, like 10, 15 times over and over again, just talking to yourself about what you did wrong. And then you finally beat them. But people are just basically dropping all of their armor, dodging all over the place, and beating the game in less than half an hour. It's impressive stuff. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the PlayStation 5 and a bit of a hidden upgrade that Sony has done here with their latest controller release. The lineup of controllers with like the galaxy themed colors. They have like a purple, a blue, a red. They look very good, and the purple controller, from what I've seen, is at least a good shade of purple, and I will pick that one up. I had the color one all done, and then Sony announces this whole lineup. But at times, you will see these companies release these controllers or different accessories, even systems, and they'll do some modifications inside based on feedback or just things they've seen people say online with social media and all this. And it looks like Sony has attempted to tackle at least one problem that's been brought up with those DualSense controllers, that being the triggers on the back. This is something that people have talked about where the springs inside are a bit more delicate maybe than they're expecting, and they go to press down and all of a sudden it's very, very loose. I mean, we already know a lot of these controllers are graded for how many button presses can happen, and they go through rigorous testing, but then you get it out into the real world and people will put it through its paces. Well, you can see this video was posted up over on Tronic's Fix channel. And I mean, it's an awesome channel in the first place. It gives me a lot of flashbacks back to the old repair days there where he'll order stuff on eBay, lots of these systems, and try to fix them, which of course would let him then sell them at retail and to different customers. But he went through all the different controllers and found that there were some differences in the analog sticks, which I think he's correct. I don't believe there's any major difference there when it comes to different colored plastics. But then he also points out that the metals on the springs that let you press down and then spring back, the L2 and R2 buttons, are thicker, which would of course allow for more button presses or just a more durable spring that's installed there. Which is great news because, yeah, as we would expect, Sony is working to improve the DualSense controller where it makes sense. There are certain things these companies can't necessarily do to just outright fix a problem, which is what Nintendo is going through with their Joy-Cons now. And that Joy-Con drift, they would have to just completely alter that joystick, and it makes sense in its form factor where they're trying to keep the joystick as like low as they can, if that makes sense, rather than have this big joystick sticking out that might not be as portable then. But Sony at least can work within what they have there with that DualSense controller and fix it up a bit more as they get feedback going forward. Like drift on the PS5 DualSense has also been coming up, so I will be curious to see if they decide to work on that as they go along and different parts become available or R&D continues to improve this. It really comes down to, I guess, just the analog sticks they're using and the improvements that can be done at a factory level with the companies at times that they'll work with for those analog sticks. So drifting, I think, is going to exist. I mean, for a long time, if it ever gets fixed, just because there's going to be defects in controllers at all times. But if they can lessen it and at least keep it within reason along with those springs being fixed, I think what's become one of my favorite controllers ever with the DualSense can just get better. So if you were curious about these controllers, you can add another thing to your list as a reason to buy them, because it does look like at least the spring in the L2 and R2 buttons are improved. Next up, let's talk about a big state of play that is scheduled for this week, and it's for a game that a lot of people have been asking to see since it originally debuted, which feels like forever ago, and that's Hogwarts Legacy. Now, before we take a look at this blog post that Sony made on their PlayStation site, I will say there's a lot of controversy around the creator for Harry Potter. So I would take a look around there and decide for yourself what you want to do here, supporting it and all of that. It's going to come up a lot. So I'm going to continue covering the game and everything. Just want to make you aware there. You should be able to make your own decision either way. But let's take a look over here. This is on PlayStation blog saying live the unwritten in Thursday's Hogwarts Legacy State of Play. They say get the first in-depth look at Hogwarts Legacy gameplay from Avalanche on March 17th. This is 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. They say since we first revealed Hogwarts Legacy, the trailer has been viewed over 28 million times on PlayStation YouTube channel. I was a little surprised to see that number, but yeah, people are really interested in this game, and maybe it's because it's like the first full-blown AAA looking Harry Potter game, but they say the show will run for about 20 minutes, featuring over 14 minutes of Hogwarts Legacy gameplay captured on PS5 and concluding with some insight from a few members of the team at Avalanche Software who are bringing the wizarding world to life. They say this is an incredible moment that we've been building towards for a long time. We can't wait to show you what we've been working on. And there are a lot of developers obviously working on this, and I have to imagine they look around at a lot of the controversy and go, we're just trying to build this game here. But the game itself, while I'm not at all into Harry Potter, I understand why people are really excited for a next generation, current generation now with the PS5 and the Xbox series and all of this Harry Potter game. It looks like they are really putting a lot of money and production behind this title, and it's supposed to be coming out this year. That was with an update from WB's CEO. So while they have things like Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League being pushed to next year, they seem to have their big 2 releases, that being Gotham Knights and Hogwarts Legacy. So I'm at least curious to see what they do here with this game, how large it really is, and if we do see a release, maybe sooner rather than later. But make sure you check this one out this week, and we'll finally get another look at Hogwarts Legacy after, like I said, what's felt like forever, and apparently 28 million views on that initial trailer. Next up, let's talk about a game that's been leaked out a bit early for the Switch through what else but the ratings board. This happens like every single time. It's either the Taiwan ratings board in Korea or in the US with the ESRB. Well, we can see this here. Post up over on Gematsu. Fist Forged in Shadow Torch, rated for the Switch in Taiwan. Now, it's already available on the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 4, and then it was ported to the PC like a month or 2 later. I did an entire video on this, and I really like this game. It's like a 2D Metroidvania style with, as you can see here, a rabbit with a very big mechanical arm on their back, and it'll transform into different forms and all of this, which is really cool. It's stuff you unlock as you go through the game, and the combo system is actually pretty satisfying overall. Now, this is technically an indie title, so I almost wonder if this is something that could show up in an Indie World showcase from Nintendo in the near future here. I mean, typically you might see something like that from Nintendo over like through the spring, so that could be a good spot for this. And I'm also curious to see this one on the Switch. It ran pretty well on the PS5, no issues there, but like on the PS4, there were a lot of frame rate issues that were being reported online, as well as fuzzy images at times. So I am, again, curious how this will play out there, but I think it's a very good fit for the Nintendo Switch. It's a Metroidvania, and obviously we see how things like Metroid Dread has done on the system there. So this, I think, will be a welcomed addition to the system, and when it does inevitably pop up, as it's already been rated here, we'll see it at some point here, make sure you check it out because I really enjoyed it. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about House of the Dead Remake. It's exciting stuff to see this game coming back, and it's out in less than a month. Forever Entertainment is doing this game, so I'll be curious to see how that turns out after Panzer Dragoon and everything that went on there after its launch. But I was curious if we would have a physical copy to pick up, and it looks like we will indeed have that. There was one part of the description that seemed to get brought up because it could lead to an interesting accessory being used here, but let's take a look. This over on Amazon, the House of the Dead Remake, the Limited Dead Edition. Well, I mean, that's clever. For the Switch, of course, at $39.99. Now, it will include an exclusive lenticular box, 2 character stands, and a sticker sheet. The thing that people were pointing out, though, is a few passages down. It says play alone or with a friend using Joy-Cons or a gun. Now, that obviously brought up the idea of a light gun maybe being used here. I'm kind of thinking they're talking about something like this, for example, which is this is like a 2-pack for like these holsters that make the Joy-Con into kind of a gun shaped. So we've had these around since basically the Wii days, when the companies figured out they could mold plastics that look like little guns, and you could just put the Wii remote in there, and I'm sure they made plenty of money when all that was going on. But I think the idea here and what people are hoping is that there would be some sort of light gun you could buy that would more or less emulate the arcade experience. The issue we're running into, though, is you would need more than just the gun, because you'd still be relying on the gyro sensor in that Joy-Con. I don't believe they'd be able to take advantage of that IR sensor without there being something like a sensor bar on top of your TV. And that's what made the Wii itself, with that remote and the sensor bar, really, really good for these point and shoot games because of the pointer controls. So, I mean, I have no problem hooking up a sensor bar if they give us that option. I just don't know if it's something they're going to be tackling here. I think they're mostly talking about the plastic casing that you can put on your Joy-Con to make it look like a gun. Either way though, I'll be picking up this physical copy for House of Dead and crossing my fingers that this new version of the game, this remake, turns out to be good. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked which controller that comes with the system has been your favorite so far this generation. We have the Xbox Series at 32%, the PS5 DualSense 58%, and then the Switch Joy-Cons at 10%. I mean, maybe if I put the Switch Pro controller in there, it would have got more votes, but I went with what comes in the box with your system, and that would be the Joy-Cons. Now, I get it with the PS5 DualSense. It is a fascinating controller when it's used well. I think we're still in this cross-gen period where it's not being used to its fullest extent, because when you play something like Returnal, I mean, that is a crazy experience with that DualSense, or Astro's Playroom, which is a phenomenal game to take advantage of that controller. So I think there's still a lot that we're gonna see this DualSense controller do, but I gotta say, right now, with a lot of the games I'm playing, the DualSense is like my go-to currently. So yeah, I'm excited to see what else Sony and their first parties and even some third parties can get out of it. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Jay saying the next FromSoft game seems like it'll be that new Armored Core that's been in the works for like the last 6 years. Interested to see if they can make that series pop now with their current hype. You know, I think this could be a great time to do Armored Core. Daemon X Machina was all right, but like I feel like most people are looking now to FromSoft after that listing and the leak and all the stuff around Armored Core as that being their next big push for the series there. I mean, they're on fire with the Souls stuff, so I almost wonder if maybe some of that works its way into this new Armored Core and they restructure it a bit and it ends up being the big jumping off point for a series that hasn't sold historically well. Maybe this is it here with, like you say, the hype around FromSoft. This next Armored Core takes it to the next level. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Whether Sony doing these quiet updates to the PS5 DualSense controller. Let me know if you had any issues with like the springs in the L2 or R2 buttons. Then also, what about Hogwarts Legacy with this big state of play? Are you excited, and what are you hoping to see from the game? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.